Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis are still facing the backlash of their letters to Danny Masterson and their apology afterwards. Very excited because we got TikTok master as well as PR guru Molly McPherson here to break down what should they do next. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and if you aren't following Molly McPherson over on the socials, you should. So happy to have you back, Molly. How you doing?
Hey, great to be here, Andy. Hello, great.
I love your TikToks. For those of you who don't know, she joined us with Christopher last week. We were talking about the Joe Jonas situation, but she's been killing it over there as these PR crises happen. It seems like now you're becoming a go-to for folks to tune in and see, well, what's happening? Was this right? So I'm so honored to have you back. And I wanted to, so if you guys haven't already, go to her TikTok, Molly McPherson. I'll put it in the description, her Instagram, go support her. But we're going to repeat some stuff you said here, so my apologies. But for the fans that haven't seen it, let's rewind. I know you did a video about the apology. I know you said you don't want to watch the apology again. I won't make you watch it again. But just to summarize again, do you echo everyone else's sort of feelings and that this wasn't really an apology video? Is that what you feel like?
Yeah, this is almost a watermark for celebrity apologies as what not to do. Like, I feel that Ashton and Mila have given us an example of the worst response that you can possibly do in the midst of a PR crisis.
Yeah, it's weird because it doesn't feel like they wrote those letters. I guess I've heard that they didn't know they were going to get public, even though that's sort of weird to me. All that stuff can go public. They should have known that. Their team would have told them that, right? You would know that too, right? As a PR expert with celebrities, would you have even advised them to have written those letters?
I mean, certainly we don't know what is happening behind the scenes. But it appears from an outsider point of view, based on their reaction and based on the fact that they were in the middle of an Airbnb promotion swing as well, that I did not get the feeling that they expected these letters to be released, that perhaps counsel told them they'll remain sealed. That's what it appears like to me.
From a PR perspective, I'm curious because clearly he's friends with Danny, and what's been frustrating to me and others is like, okay, great. Well, then defend your friend Danny and tell us why you think he's innocent. To me, would that have been a better move, at least, if he had just come out swinging saying, we don't believe this. We understand that the judge has. We stand by our friend. Might that have been lesser, or do you think that would have been as damaging?
This is the risk of being someone, on social media who talks about public relations, because when I go deep into a crisis with a client, I have visibility on the truth. I know what's happening, and none of us really know what's happening behind the scenes. This is what it appears, that Ashton and Mila go way back with Danny Masterson, Ashton even further back. I think that we're looking at an extreme sense of loyalty for friendship. I also feel that, as I said, that I don't think they ever anticipated these letters going public. So it's difficult for him to come out and say that writing the letters was a mistake on his behalf. However, what if I really had to put my chips down and make a bet on this one? I think that Ashton and Mila both are not apologizing, or why this doesn't seem authentic is because they would do it again, like given the chance. Like, I don't think that they believe they were wrong in writing those letters. Mm-hmm. And that's why we got the apology that's why we got the video that we got.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we've had that debate here of like there are some people who say, look, I don't fault them for defending their friend, even though he's convicted. But I guess and I could see that, but my frustration is this apology video then didn't defend their friend. This apology walked that back. If they had said nothing, wouldn't that have been a better move? This video was 10 times worse from a PR standpoint, no?
You're absolutely right. It was 10 times worse. They did have a lane that they could have chosen, honestly, because you want to relate to people. Like, how can we be relatable? People can understand deep-seated loyalty in a friend. People can understand that. They can also understand that people can get clouded in loyalty to friendship. What he could have done is to explain why he did it. I wrote the letter. I wrote it because he's my friend, because also there was a mistrial. So he could write it in the sense that he felt that he was innocent, that right. Maybe, that he truly felt that his friend was innocent, and then admit, but I understand by doing that why everyone is so upset, because I wasn't thinking about the victims. So he could have walked back a little, started with loyalty, and then explained why everyone is so upset with him. But the mistake that they both made is they do something that a lot of celebrities or people in the public eye do when they have to apologize, but they really don't want to, is they'll barely come close to an apology, but then they'll apologize for the wrong thing. And that's exactly what he did.
Well, you bring that up because now I want to ask, well, now what should he do? Now this apology's blown up. You did a TikTok that also went viral talking about it, and you made a very good point in there, and I echo it. He's part of this group, Thorn, guys, and it's a very problematic thing to look at now with Ashton all over the achievements of this year alone of trying. I got to be careful the language we use on these keywords can trigger these videos, but you know, trafficking and for certain aged people, et cetera, and women, this is stuff that isn't a good look now to see him defending Danny after being convicted of these types of crimes. So you feel like he should step down from this. And I agree. There's probably even a way to do it where he doesn't have to admit guilt, right? He can do the whole, I don't want to distract what we're, the amazing work we're doing, et cetera. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a question that I'll ask, with clients when we're in the middle of a crisis, I'll ask, like, what's at stake here? What's really at stake? If Ashton didn't have the Thorn piece as a thorn in his side now, he could just like quietly go back into the world where he does have success, venture is VC, all the apps, he's the tech guy. He could still do what he needs to do without being the face of anything. He's not coming out in any movies or televisions, though, what's happening, with the revamp of the 70s show. But it's this attachment to Thorn that is incredibly problematic to him and the organization, because a decision has to be made. So this cannot be a crisis that he can just walk away from, because this is still hanging out there. So it does have to be addressed.
Now, people, and us included, we've all now sort of taken the bait. We've all now leaned more into his past. Demi Moore's biography has now come forward. Like, a lot is being exposed on that. Do you think that's fair, just from your own personal standpoint? Do you understand why people are now digging in and bringing up these past issues as sort of point? Because now they're trying to make this association that Ashton's always known. Ashton's always been this bad boy. This is clearly now what he wrote in this letter is a lie. What are your thoughts on all this other stuff sort of now peeking its head?
Yeah, but where we are now in 2023 is, I would say, since 2020, really when TikTok started to take off. I mean, certainly we've had social media, for a long time, but, Twitter isn't a TikTok. We have video, we have experience, we have brands, we have people who love to investigate and dig because the content is there. Previous to that, the whole Ashton Demi era was not in the TikTok era. So TikTok has created this like time factor to every single crisis, but also the investigation piece of it, where people will start to dig, find new content, and then new framing is out there. So every time that Ashton doesn't speak up, it's like TikTok is speaking on his behalf, and YouTube and all the people with this commentary. He is definitely in a reputation limbo right now. And Thorn as an organization absolutely needs to address this, but also they were involved with Airbnb in this big promotion as well. And that's another adjacent brand, that became crisis adjacent to Ashton. So I do think something will be done there. They may be doing something quietly, like maybe they won't announce him stepping down, but they might announce a new face to the organization.
So moving forward, like, it sounds like he's not going to say anything else. It doesn't seem like you even suggest in your TikTok he should go do a big interview and just take that accountability. It seems like his loyalty to his friend is clearly something he's going to keep doing. Is this silence, could it work? I mean, it seems to, most people move on after a certain amount of weeks, right, to the next story. Could the silence actually help him?
Yeah, the irony of a PR crisis here is that like 3 TikToks prior to that, I was talking about the importance, like silence is so powerful when I was referring to Sophie Turner and Joe Jonas. Yep. And now we can counter that with Ashton. One of the reasons why I believe he should remain silent, there's 2 ways that he could go. If he's going to admit that writing the letter was wrong and explain why he wrote it, then you go the accountability route. And I had mentioned doing like mainstream network, interview. It's not about getting the apology out to the masses. We wouldn't do probably broadcast television for that. It's just really about setting the record. So people who are, brands and endorsements, they know where he stands on this. But I don't think because he doesn't want to apologize, I think he and Mila are like doubling down on their loyalty to, they're choosing friendship over reputation at this point. So I suspect that he's going to remain silent, which I probably would do, because the next time he tries to do it again, the same thing is going to happen. But now everyone's gonna be ready for it.
Right. And the reality is exactly anything he gives will now be content of people not believing him, because there's going to be people who don't believe him. And then the silence might make people just move on to the next story. So
Right.
in some ways, is there a version of this, I guess, final thoughts here, version of this where he doesn't step down, he doesn't have to take any accountability, all this sort of glosses over? Or do you think this has now gotten big enough that this is a cloud over the Kutcher brand?
Oh, if let's say the organization was, delivering water to people in despair, or something that wasn't attached to the category, I don't see any way that organization, they rely on donations. They rely on the benevolence from other people to be able to remain effective. If he's the face of it and still the head of it, I don't even know how they can even carry on. How can he sit down and testify to Congress? How could he be on a PSA? How could he be the face of this issue when he endorsed that issue by proxy, by writing that letter? Way too problematic for the organization.
And now there's accusations that the money they raise is going more towards the employees than the victims themselves. Now it's under a huge scrutiny, which if they don't remove him, almost feels like there's potentially a cover up. What's Thorn's PR now? They kind of have, I guess you've said it, they really need to do something and remove him in order to sort of combat all this.
Yeah, and we haven't seen anything. We haven't heard anything. So they're probably definitely weighing their options. But also, it's not as if he's just a spokesperson for the organization. He is the organization.
Right.
So, again, whatever happens to Thorn, in a way, is an extension of Ashton. So if Thorn goes away, or if Ashton has to step back, it's his organization. So it also brings the culpability that it's almost like an admission, like a passive admission. So he really is in a fix, if you will. Like he put himself into a very complicated place from a PR reputation point of view, and his wife.
Yeah, well, and you also brought up the fact that it's an organization did with Demi Moore, who now, if you go back and people are uncovering it, was standing on stage announcing this organization while finding out he was sleeping with these, younger women. The age sort of doesn't matter given Demi and Ashton's age, but it's all a bad look now to know that this was the thing you did because you watched the thing in Cambodia with your wife at the time, created this thing with her, and now suddenly she's gone. She's not involved in it, which is kind of in itself a weird thing. Is there a version where Demi can step up and reclaim it, you think?
I mean, behind the scenes, it's probably very complicated for her to do that, but man, wouldn't that be a justice for Demi? Because now that people are really starting to see more about that relationship for what it actually was, if there was a path forward for this organization, people wanting to get behind it, I think it would be her, but it would have to be someone else as well. Because, once you could even open up Demi's closet too, because in Hollywood, it's really, really difficult. People lived at a time when they didn't think there'd be social media and people be able to scrutinize, historically as much as they are. I think what they really need to do is just start clean in a way. If the organization is going to remain, they need to cut ties with Ashton, and they need to find a new face, new leadership, and kind of, revamp what they're trying to do in their efforts.
Right. And we live in a world also in social media where a lot of the other coin happens too, where a lot of people believe they're victims when they're not, or they want the clout. And so it becomes a much complicated war where you don't know what to believe anymore. So I'm glad you're here to give some insight. Always a pleasure to have you. Please keep coming back. Guys, check her out on TikTok, Instagram, Molly McPherson. She does awesome breakdowns, and I appreciate you being here. Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, guys. Hit the bell for all alerts. Smash the thumbs up, or the thumbs down works too. All engagement matters. A comment will work as well. Appreciate you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more here on Popcorn Planet.